Welcome into Week 5, Stardom Situm here on Run the League on 365 Sports. Let's get ready. Let's get these lineups set, and let's win this week. Let's get some wins, people. And, of course, don't forget all the other content we're putting out. The Fantasy Football Show Thursday morning, along with my waiver wire ads from Run the League a little bit earlier in the week. But let's get going. Let's start and sit. All right, welcome in. Here we go. The quarterback position, start and sit them this week. Of course, like we talk about every week, you're going to start the top guys. You're going to start the Josh Allen, the Kyler Murray, the Patrick Mahomes, guys like that. But let's dig a little deeper. Who are some guys that you can throw in your lineup that can really give you a high ceiling this week and potentially win you your week? So, the two guys that I have for starts, Matt Ryan against the Jets. The Jets defense has been really bad, and on the flip side, Matt Ryan had his best week of the season last weekend against the Washington football team. I think that's going to continue. I think Matt Ryan's going to have a big week. Calvin Ridley, Kyle Pitts maybe finally breaks out. And, of course, Cordero Patterson, who was a guy I told you to pick up a few weeks ago. And if you didn't know, Cordero is the running back number 2 in PPR, only behind Derrick Henry so far this year. So I think all of those guys have a lot of value this week, along with Mike Davis. I think it's going to be a good offensive week for the Falcons. And as for the Jets, I think they're going to score some points, which is going to allow Matt Ryan to continue to throw the football. So you're going to be pretty happy, I think, if you start Matt Ryan this week. The second name I have is Daniel Jones. He's taking on the Dallas Cowboys. Of course, Sam Darnold was the quarterback 1 this week against the Cowboys. Yeah, it was garbage time. Yeah, some of it might have been fluky with the rushing touchdowns, but Daniel Jones does very similar things to Sam Darnold, except, Andy's got weapons. I mean, they're so similar, and so I think he's going to be able to put up some points against Cowboys. This is a divisional matchup, and so therefore, I think this is going to be a big week for Daniel Jones. Flip side, start of the week is the same guy I just mentioned. It's Sam Darnold taking on the Eagles. I love Jalen Hurts this week, but he's an obvious one that you're going to start. But Sam Darnold versus Jalen Hurts, this is going to be a lot of points between these two teams. I think both of these defenses are kind of reeling a little bit due to injuries and just other factors. I think there's some problems going on for both teams, and therefore I think both of these quarterbacks are going to have big weeks as they try to get their teams to win with the offensive side of the football. My sits of the week at the quarterback position, Taylor Heine. He's going up against the Saints this week. I'm just not sold on Taylor Heine. I think in good matchups you can play him. This is not a good matchup against the Saints. I think the Saints are going to make life difficult for Heine, and therefore I think this is going to be a tough week for the Washington football team's offense as a whole. The second one that I have, and this is one where it's just kind of disappointing. The Browns have put up quite a few points most weeks. They didn't play great last week, but Baker Mayfield has not really been a big part of that. He's kind of been just that game manager, which we've seen in the past. But, sometimes he'd throw for 250 yards and then throw 5 touchdowns. That's just not happening this year. They're running the ball a ton. They're getting to the goal line. They're hardly doing play action at the goal line. They are running the football, and it's really hurting Baker Mayfield. And I think the Chargers have kind of figured some things out on the defensive side of the ball. So I think this is going to be more of a running week for the Browns, and that's normal for them, but I think it hurts Baker Mayfield, and so I'm not going to play him this week against a pretty decent defense in the Chargers, who just really, held Derek Carr to his worst outing of the season. So I think they're on a little bit of a roll right now. At the running back position, let's talk about some starts this week at the running back spot. Of course, once again, you're going to start the top guys most of the weeks. You're going to start your top, 15 running backs. But here are some deeper names to keep an eye on. Zach Moss against the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs are a bottom 10 run defense in the entire league. Zach Moss has been cashing in the red zone. Therefore, he's a really nice start this week. And if they are behind, I think he can play a factor in the receiving game as well, which helps in PPR. But he's been on a roll, and he's a guy who I would definitely consider picking up if he's on the waiver wire, or a guy who I'd consider starting because he shouldn't be on the waiver wire. Hopefully he's been added in your leagues. But if he hasn't, go pick him up right now. I think he's a pretty nice RB3, RB4 rest of season, but could sneak into the top 24 this week against the Chiefs. The next running back, Daryl Henderson. Again, this is all about matchups. The Seahawks defense has been horrible, and Daryl Henderson is going to cash in this week. I think the Rams, their biggest thing is they're coming off of their first loss of the season against the Cardinals, in which they were blown out, frankly. I mean, Kyler Murray put up some huge numbers on them, and so I think this is a bit of a redemption week for them. This is going to be on Thursday night. I think the Seahawks will put up some points, but I think Daryl Henderson is going to play a big factor in the red zone. So, yeah, I think the Rams are going to be pretty good, and I think Daryl Henderson will probably have his biggest week of the season against Seahawks this week. I have two other names who I like. Leonard Fournette versus the Miami Dolphins. They've given up over 100 yards rushing to the lead back 2 straight weeks now, so Fournette should be able to continue that trend against the Dolphins, who, you know, the Dolphins are just reeling right now. So, yeah, Fournette should have a pretty nice game. And then Damien Harris versus the Houston Texans. Harris had a really tough matchup this week against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, so he wasn't great. I think he'll get back on track against the Texans. He's just getting so much work when they're ahead, and I expect them to be in the lead against the Texans this weekend. But my start of the week, and this is, I know this is kind of hedging my bet a little bit, but if Dalvin Cook plays this week, he is my start of the week against the Lions. If he does not play, then Alexander Mattison is my start of the week against the Lions. I think both will get plenty of work if both are healthy. But if Dalvin is 100% a go, he's going to have a great week against the Lions. If Mattison is starting running back, I think he's going to have a good week. So monitor that situation. Hopefully you roster both of them. If you don't, then, you know, I'm hoping that the outcome goes well for you, because whoever the starting running back is in this game for the Vikings is going to have a big week against the Detroit Lions, who are a bottom 5 run defense in the entire league. My sits this week, and it pains me to say this, but it kind of goes in line with what I said on the Tuesday show, where I was saying pick up Kenny Gainwell. And the reason for that is Miles Sanders' inconsistency. So they take on the Carolina Panthers. The Eagles have been throwing the ball a lot, relying on Jalen Hurts a lot, and not really relying on their run game a ton. So Miles Sanders, he was the RB12 week 1. Since that point, he has put up running back finishes of 40, 35, and 40 the past 3 weeks. I simply cannot play him right now. I think you need to move on to another option this week, because if he gives you an RB40 performance, it really, really hurts your team. So if you have a better option, I'd try to move to a different option and kind of see what you have with Sanders over the next few weeks before you kind of go all in again. The other spot that I'm a little concerned about is the 49ers rushing attack. They take on the Cardinals this week. And the Cardinals, I think, are going to score a lot of points. I think they're going to make it very difficult for the Niners to be able to just stay on script, which means they're going to want to run the football. They're going to want to hand the ball off. They're going to want to control time of possession. That's what the 49ers do. But I don't know if they're going to be able to do that against the Cardinals this week. So when you're talking about Trey Sermon or Elijah Mitchell or Kyle Juszczyk, I would just kind of stay away from them. I think it's going to be by committee anyways, regardless of who the lead back is. And so, therefore, I'm just staying away from the 49ers rushing attack until we find out who the starter is. I mean, it's just really confusing right now, and I just don't want any part of it at the moment. At the wide receiver position, starts of the week this week, Jamar Chase is a really interesting option. Now, T. Higgins probably is going to come back this week against the Green Bay Packers, but if Joe Mixon is out, I think this is a great week for Joe Burrow. I think this is a great week for the offense as a whole, because I think the Packers are going to score some points on this Bengals defense, and therefore the Bengals are going to be playing some catch-up. So Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, fire them all up. I think Joe Burrow could have a really nice week against the Packers. Remember, this is if Mixon is out. If Mixon is in, it's a little bit more difficult because they're going to hand the ball off to him 20-plus times, which it just hurts the target share for all of those weapons, and it hurts Joe Burrow. So if he is out, fire up those wide receivers. Also at the wide receiver spot, Deebo Samuel, the 49ers wide receiver. This is kind of going in line with what I think the 49ers are going to have to do against the Cardinals this week, which is throw the ball a ton. Deebo Samuel is clearly the number 1 there this year. Obviously, Brandon Ayuk has just completely fallen off the map It's so weird, but it is what it is. So Deebo Samuel, very good play this week against the Cardinals. He'll probably have another touchdown. He'll get a lot of targets from Trey Lance and be a guy who will be a factor. He gets the ball in such creative ways that it really allows him to have a safe floor. And he's been healthy this year, which is what you've been looking for out of Deebo. Corey Davis, he takes on the Atlanta Falcons this week. I mentioned the Jets offense. I think they're going to throw the ball a ton. I think they're going to be playing catch up. The Falcons defense is very beatable. And so therefore, Corey Davis, who was the wide receiver 5 last week, yeah, I would definitely play him this week. I think you have a nice option there with Zach Wilson kind of taking that next step as a quarterback, and this offense really just trying to play keep up. I think it's a good situation for Corey Davis this week. My start of the week, and it's again, I'm attacking this Jets versus Falcons matchup, and this is one who you should be starting regardless. But I know it's been tough. It's tough to play him right now just because he hasn't had that big performance, but I think that changes this week. So Calvin Ridley is my start of the week at the wide receiver position. I think Matt Ryan has a great week. I mentioned him in the quarterback start this week, and so therefore I think his top target, Calvin Ridley, has a big week against the Jets. My sits of the week at the wide receiver position, Cortland Sutton at Pittsburgh. Teddy Bridgewater may not play, and that's bad for the offense as a whole. Drew Lock is just not getting the job done. And so I think Cortland Sutton is a guy who I would try to bench this week. It's going to be tough going on the road to Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh needing a win. I think their defense will play a little bit better, and I think it's going to make life tough for Cortland Sutton this week without his starting quarterback. My other sit of the week, and it goes back to a name I just mentioned, and that's Brandon Ayuk. I can't play him right now. And it really stinks because Ayuk is such a talented player. We saw that last year. We saw it on display. But he's just not getting the snaps. He's not getting the target share. He just has kind of... He just seems like he's in the doghouse, to be honest, right now. So I'm not going to play him against the Cardinals. Would it shock me if he had a good performance? No. But I think after the first 4 weeks of the season, I think you got to be sitting there and saying, hey, it's okay if he goes off this week because it'll help me the rest of the season, even if I miss out on his breakout performance. But I don't see it happening this week. Moving on to the tight end position, my starts of the week, and I'm just loving this 49ers versus Cardinals matchup. The passing attack for the 49ers should be a full go, and therefore I think George Kittle has a really nice performance this week. He's a guy who you're going to start in most leagues, but he hasn't really paid off for you. And so I think he finally pays off for you this week. He'll get some nice catches, some nice target share, and maybe a touchdown this week, which would be really nice to see. My other start that I really like, Mike Gesicki against Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This Dolphins offense is absolutely horrible, historically bad with Jacoby Brissett at quarterback, and it doesn't look like Tua will be back this week. If he's not, I think Brissett's going to be just trying to throw it all over the place, throw those short targets to kind of these weapons like Jalen Waddle and Mike Gesicki. Those are the guys that he's really loved throwing the ball to. And so I think Gesicki could have a nice performance. Tampa Bay's secondary is banged up. So yeah, maybe Gesicki has a nice run this week. He's ranked outside the top 10. So he's a guy who, if you see him on the waiver wire, pick him up, put him in your lineup if you need an option there. My start of the week this week, I mentioned him on the waiver wire show, but it's Dawson Knox versus the Kansas City Chiefs. I think he's going to catch another touchdown. He's just been such a red zone threat, and I think against the Chiefs, they're going to have to throw the football. And so therefore, I think Dawson Knox should have a pretty nice performance this week. I have one sit of the week at the tight end position, and it is Robert Tunyan, the Green Bay Packers tight end. He has finished 41st, 5th, 46th, and 37th in the first 4 games of the season. And that's at the tight end position. 46 tight ends finishing ahead of him in a week. That's pretty crazy. There's only 32 NFL teams, so he has finished outside the top 32 3 of the past 4 weeks. That is just shocking that backups really are having a bigger role than him. But that just is what it is. If you play Tunyan, you're hoping for a touchdown, praying for a touchdown. And it really just hasn't been there except for his tight end 5 performance in which he caught a touchdown. So I would stay away from Tunyan this week. I would prefer to play guys like Dalton Schultz or Dawson Knox over him. So hopefully y'all get a win this week. Week 5, really pivotal pivotal week for you as you try to ascend and try to move up the standings and try to win your league, honestly. Be sure to check out the Fantasy Football Show, which will come out on Thursday morning. But this has been Run the League with Grayson Grunhafer on 365 Sports.